Welcome to the weekly demo offered by the Inclusive Organization Technology team within the International Permaculture CoLab. This project is made possible through funding received from the Next Steps project, which is a funded project within the International Permaculture CoLab. If you would like to know more about this project, you can visit www.perma.earth. The link is also available in the video description. Good morning and welcome to this week's open source tool demo, and we are going to talk about Cryptpad. Now, Cryptpad is a collaboration suite which is end-to-end encrypted and open source, and it has been developed and offered by a French team of developers. I'm going to go to their official website here. This is where you can find information about Cryptpad on cryptpad.org. And in this session, we're going to talk about their pricing, what features. There are different ways to access the service as if you want to use the software. And so first and foremost, the first thing you see, it has a lot of different things that you can do with it, but we want to focus on pricing first. So there's various options to access the software, from free to getting your own instance or being hosted elsewhere. The free version is basically a free account on a public instance. So this is a public instance that someone else is hosting. Then there is a self-hosted option. This is the kind of hosting we are using in the International Permaculture CoLab. I will talk a little bit about this when we talk about access at the end. And of course, if you're using this software for free, then we recommend that you make a donation to the team who's developing it, because development time costs a lot of money, as you can imagine. The XWiki SAS team, the software as a service team, the people who have developed this software also offer instances, and they cost between 50 to 100 per month, and depending on the plan that you want. And then there's your own instance, which is fully hosted and managed on the cloud. And also they also offer on-premises support for 1.5K per year. So this is more suitable for larger enterprises, non-profit organizations when they have a lot of users, and schools. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Your own Crypt instance, this comes with a lot of extra customizations, like having it from your own domain, putting logos and colors, and so on and so forth. Single sign-on. Single sign-on is when you can, for example, log in with your Google account and so on. So the first example is enterprise pricing. They've got many, small, medium, and large. This depends on the number of users and the storage that they offer with it. These are the prices that they've got. And then there's some 50% off enterprise pricing to education and nonprofits. That's for starting from 50 users. Yes, the prices go up accordingly, really, to how much people are expected to use. We've touched on pricing. You can, if you're not sure and want to revisit them, you can always go to cryptpad.org/pricing here on the top. I will also share the link in the description. And now we're going to move into the next section of our demo, which is a demonstration of the features. And for this, I'm going to use this instance, which is the International Permaculture CoLab instance, which can be found at pad.app.perma.earth. This is only our testing instance, so I don't recommend it for longer term. If you're creating documents on this, it will be available for testing for a limited time, and then we will relaunch it. So it won't be found here anymore, but this is where we're testing it at the moment. As you can see, I already have an account. We will talk a little bit about access in the next step, but for now, we concentrate on the features. As you can see, I have here two options. I have many options, but I can start a new document, and I can pick what the document is doing, or what kind of document I want to start, or I can click on the drive. I'm going to start with new document and go through each one of these at a time. So starting with sheet. So here I get to pick what sort of document I want to start. If it's an own document, so something that I want to keep in my drive. If I want to have it with a destruction date, so it will auto delete after a certain date. Or if I want to add a password. Add a password is useful if I want to share this document later, but I want to assign a password to it. So if I click add a password, and just put limited access as the password, I create that. And you can see here, so first of all, that the naming is editable, so I can click to edit that title. This sheet, for example, you can call it what you like. Clicking away from it will automatically save it. At the bottom, it's giving me a warning here. It says this pad is not in your crypt drive. Do you want to store it now? So yes, I would store it. Okay, and as you can see, it's a pretty standard only Office sheet, which works like most other spreadsheets. And you can find all the features that you normally can find in a spreadsheet. In addition to this, at the top, you have a share button. So this is where you want to share the link to this pad. You have an embed mode. So this is where you can embed it, for example, on a website. It gives you the code for this, just the embed tool. If you're using it simply to share it with other people who you're working with, then you can decide whether they can view and edit, whether they can only view it once, and it will self-destruct. And that gives you quite an interesting options now. Then if you go to contacts, this will only work if you're connected with other people on the Cryptpad. So in this case, I'm not, so it's not giving me the option. It also reminds me that this spreadsheet is password protected because I had set that at the beginning. But that's important then, that if I'm sharing it with a contact, then they will not have to enter the password. They will automatically have access to it. But if I share the link, they will have to enter the password. So this again, it explains to me here in this blue box that I will also, if I want to share it with someone and they need to view it or edit it, I have also to share the password. So if I copy this link there, and if I open it, so this is what it will look like for people trying to access it without a password. Then they will type in the password if they have it. And it will show them what I have there later. It also gives them the prompt to save it in their drive if they have an account. So, and on the same document, it has a number of people on this document. So you can see here in the top corner, the number of people on it, which is me and myself right now. And also if the person has an account or if the person's a guest. So that's also important. So especially when you're working with other people, then let's say you're facilitating a session and you're using this kind of document, you want to know that all of the people who are on your workshop can access it and they're showing up here. You can also edit the name. So another. There's no tool of me. Like that. There's also a chat function. I'll move this around here so you can see it. And this is useful if you are really co-working and you want to ask yourself a question. So what's going on with A3, for example? Then you go to A3 and you can see some problem there and you can fix it. So it really allows you to collaborate with other people. That's the whole purpose of this software. It also gives you a date and the timestamp for when the message was sent, so that you know if if something's very old and you don't need to care about it. I'm gonna go to the first version. So on the version that we started, you can see now where the guest is as well. So you see which field that they're into. If I click on the chat, you can see the chat that I have posted from this other account, on the guest account that I was at. It works pretty much like any other spreadsheet. So I'm not gonna demonstrate all the features of the spreadsheet, but you get an idea. This on the file menu item, it gives you more things that you can do with it. You can make a copy, you can export it. This is very useful if you want to download your sheet after your collaboration is finished, and maybe you want to host it elsewhere, or you want to make an individual backup of it. And here, what's important on this little drop down, it gives you all of the file options that you can do it. So you can save XLS, or ODS, bin, or PDF, depending on what you need. I find this a really cool feature. And it also allows you to save it as a template. Super important if you are, I don't know, developing a form which you want to use later, or which you want other people to be able to copy. Then it's really good because they can basically access the template and not make edits on the template itself. You can also import a template, and you can import a document into this local file. You can also have tags for this document. So for example, if IoT could be a tag. So I know that it has to do with the IoT project. I could add other tags like CoLab. These are my tags, that they're not shared with other people. It's a way for myself to be able to see easier, organize myself better in that aspect. So we saw the share options here before, and now there are the access options. So now, let's say you have shared it with someone, and the password has, you had shared the last password, and now you want to change that password. So here you can put in a new password. And of course, the guest will no longer be able to access it, right? Because they have it on the old password. And this is an easy way of controlling who can access your sheet at what time. It's super helpful. As you can see, it refreshes. Since we changed the password, it threw out the guest. So the guest no longer has access, which means here in the corner where it used to say 2 people, now it only says me, because the guest has no access to it. So this is super useful if it's something that you are asking people to put in an input on, and then later on you want to close it for input. You might want to then reshare it with them as a view only, for example, and that's really helpful in that way. If you come across anything, any options that you don't know what to do with, then you can have a look at the documentation, which is always linked here at the top. It's super helpful. So you can search in the documentation the stuff you need. So if I click on it, it should take me to the documentation directly. And you can here search the documents for anything that you can't do. It gives you also one for each application. So in this case, we were still in the spreadsheet one. So this is where you'd go. And you can see also links to the documentation of the OnlyOffice, which is the app within the sheet itself. And yeah, you can read through it. It also gives you a history of the file. So you can have a look at especially if it's an open file that the other people can edit, you might want to go back in the history to see what's happened there. You can print it, import it, and here it gives you all the information about how to do this. So don't worry if you find yourself in need of a pop-up for options, you can find this here. There's also a properties of the document itself. You can see here the tags that I've added, when it was created, when it was last accessed, and how big it is. Because the file storage is limited, so how much data you can store on it is limited on most accounts. Like the accounts that the Digital Circle offers are 2 GB, and also from the free versions there will be limited amount of megabytes that you can put on it. This is more centered around creating something collaboratively, and then maybe you want to move it to a more permanent place where you can store it. So once the file is no longer useful to you, you go on, it's not where I wanted to go, on the access button, you can also destroy this document if you no longer need it, which is pretty good. It's a good option, and then it allows you to basically purge any documents you no longer require, so that's less confusion with other people and so on. It also, there's other options here in the access panel, which is a list. So this is where you can enable a list and keep adding to the list. So once you have started sharing stuff with your contacts, they will appear here. In this case, it's only myself right now. And also this shows you who is the document of the owner, of whose owner is that document of. So if you're working collaboratively on a group document, you can also have multiple owners and add and remove owners. In this case, I'm the owner. I'm the only owner because I'm the only one in it. But if you had a group and they all want to be owners of the document, it can live in their drive. And once a person leaves that group, they can also be removed as an owner from this document. So that's basically the sheet, but I gave you quite an overview of the different also general features such as share, access, and the chat, and the number of users. Here where it says the number of users, you see the number of users in the edit function, and you would also see the number of users who are viewing. So if you have a workshop where some people have edit access and other people have only view access, this is where you would see that right here in the view panel users. Okay, I think we can close this one. I don't need to store it, so I can destroy the document. So you can also see what that happens. So this is the view of the drive. And on the bottom left-hand corner here, you can see how much storage I've used out of my allowance. With the free version, so when you have access to the free version on a public instance, this is probably fixed and you won't be able to increase it. So that's something important to remember. So in the crypt drive view, that's the storage is super important. So that's where you're really keeping an eye on how much you have left. And then you can see the documents and folders that are available to you. In this case, I have a few things here, including the test sheet. If I click on it, right click on it, then I can destroy it because I no longer need it. So that's gone. I also have the option of clicking on new. It gives me all the options that I can use. Let's say I want to create a folder first. So this is my demo folder, right? I'm gonna go in the folder, and in the folder I can create there's two options also, look, folder and shared folder. So that's interesting. I can upload a file, I can upload a folder. And so this is especially if I have files and folders on my local drive, which I want to put here. And we've already seen the sheets. I'm gonna go with rich text this time. It's good, it opens in a new tab as well, so I don't lose my space in the drive on before. Same questions as before. Do I want to own this document? Yes. I don't want a destruction date. I don't want to add a passport in this case. and it's a blank document I can create. So pretty standard text file, I would say here, and you can choose to start with the heading. Remember you can edit the demo text file. You can edit the title, which is the name of the file. Here I have added a heading, demo text, heading 1. Pretty standard text file, I would say. You can add a table. You can also have a math formula, which is pretty cool for text file, I think. So this is where you would put it. It will display as a math calculation. That's if you need that sort of function. And it has bullet points. I would say it's pretty standard what you expect of a text editor. Quote. And you can change the font and the size and the color and all of that. And same options as also insert an image. So here's where you upload your image. You can try that. So what does it look like? And same options for file here. You can save it as a template, store it in the crypt history of the document. So here there's a timeline that appears on the top. You can zoom back before the picture, before, after. So you can basically restore it from any point on the timeline by clicking restore. Okay. We'll replace the current version with this version. Also keep in mind that documents with images on them and so on, these are larger files. So perhaps it's not something you want to keep in your crypts for very long because it takes up space. And you can print it, you can export it. Here it gives you different options than the sheet that we have seen before. So you've got an MD version and a doc version. And in the prints, it's printing as an HTML version. You can make a copy. And you can change also the mode that you're looking at it for. So, for example, page mode. Contents, you can hide the contents bar there on the left. Hide. We'll make it go away. And you can also show comments. It's just hiding. You can add comments here by simply clicking on the little cloud there, a comment, submit. It has the same functions like we saw with the sheets, including the chat function and the user function, both in edit mode and the view mode. And it also gives me a word count here. Pretty good. Lots of different styling options, like I said. So yeah, it's pretty good. When there's a comment, it shows up as highlighted. So when you click on it, it opens the comment. You can reply to a comment or resolve a comment. Like, and if I want to resolve the comments, it asks me if I'm sure. Resolve. So that's it. It's resolved. This tells me where I am with my cursor. The tools toggles the tools view. So if you're maybe showing people like a little presentation, then you want to hide the toolbar. That's how you do that. And yeah, this just makes that bigger, and you can hide the comments if you don't want to see them anymore. You can also close the chat by toggling that and close the user. So it can be a pretty big view screen there if you're showing it to other people. Again, this is a collaborative tool, so multiple users will be able to be on the document and edit it at the same time. Okay. So on the Crypt drive now, it's showing me the text document that I have created. So let's try something else. Let's do a Kanban. Kanban, super simple, really good tool for people who are working together on a project. We can have different items. Let's say, I don't know, sweep the floor. I'm obviously thinking about my house. It's like trash away. And I can add more items in done and in progress. And I can click and drag it to wherever it needs to go. And I can drag them back and forward and so on. If I click on the little pencil, it expands the view. So for each one, what I have done there is create a title. For each one, I can add the content. And I can style this content using this toolbar here. I can add a task list. So a to-do might have multiple things. So, I don't know. To-do, for example. I can use tags, so I can associate different tags with different projects. And you can add multiple tags and you can change the color. And that's what it will look like. It will give me all the information there. And you can always move it. And remember, if it's a task with more people, then you might also want to add who it's assigned to. Maybe assigned. And you can use the tag also, Amy, for example, if you're assigning it to me. So now everybody in the team can see it's tagged. It's something I have to do in the house. If I was sharing this with other house members where I share the tasks, then they could also see that. And you can move it to done when it's done. That's it. And you can delete it if you no longer need it. And then close it. You can also add more columns. And let's say, for example, every end of the week, we celebrate our done pile by moving that into an archive. So then the archive would be a long list, but the done pile would just be done in the last month. Really helpful if you have reporting deadlines like at the end of the month or every 2 weeks, and you want to see what's been done during a specific time period without losing the old tasks. If the old tasks are no longer relevant, you can also then just edit them and you can just delete the task if you no longer want it. for the, I think this "Are you sure?" stuff is quite interesting. You have to click it and it's gone. Cool. You can also filter by tags. Now I've deleted the ones with the tag, so I can create another one. Let's say AMT, Amy, Rose. So here is where if I click on the tag, it will only show me the task with that tag. Pretty helpful. Interesting also share options here. You can share it with the view or edit rights. You can, same as before, embed it somewhere useful. And if you had contacts, you could also share the contacts. And yeah, it's pretty good. And also same share access as before. In this case, we didn't have an access password, but here you can set one if you want to. And here you can also destroy the document if you don't want it. You can enable an access list. This is for adding people to your team, is super useful. And also add more owners if you need to. Also here chat, so if you want to, if someone, let's say someone my team assigned me a task which I hadn't agreed to, I could say I don't have time to take on task, whatever that is. And send that so people can see there why maybe I have untagged myself. So let's say I don't have time to do this task, so I can just untag myself. And people can see it's associated with a project, but it's not tagged. So nobody's doing the task basically, so it needs to be reassigned. Every team will have their own way of assigning tasks or whatever. You can also just use this as your personal task list. It doesn't have to be shared with other people. A Kanban is a pretty small file. I'll show you later. But yes, it's not, yeah, you can use it in the way that really serves your needs. So really customize it in the way that you want it. You can also change the colors of the different columns here, just to make it a bit less boring. And yeah, I don't know. You can also change the order of the columns in whichever way is more suitable for you. And you can expand or have a minimalistic view or expand the view. Again, that depends on how you're using this and the level of detail that you're including in the tasks. You can also filter out the tags completely if you don't want to use them. On the file option, same as before, it has a history. You can save it as a template, really useful if you want to replicate across projects. You can import a template and you can import a file, make a copy, the export options. Now you can see different export options for different file types. In this case, it exports as a JSON. So any other application that takes JSON files, you'll be able to use those with. And here's the properties, and you can see the size is 42.45 kilobytes. Also gives you quite a handy way here of sharing the link, like sharing the editing link and the read-only link with other people. Instead of having to go to the access view, where maybe it's a bit more complicated for people. This is the simplest way to do it. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna go back to the drive. Different file types. The code file is made mostly for coders. It's quite handy if you're a web developer or a coder, so you can write the code on the left and it will show up on the right. And it's pretty simple to use it, just like any other code editor, really. I think I don't want to go too much into detail. For most of our users are not coders. But yeah, you can insert a picture, for example. This will insert a picture or not. You can change the theme. And in the file, I just want to show you the export. So here again, it gives you different export modes and it will only export in MD. So it's a simple text file, which you can then copy paste maybe the code elsewhere in your preferred web developer. So I think this is a useful tool for doing small jobs, but for developers that work more consistently, they'll have their own ways to do this and they don't use Cryptpad for this. Then we have forms. This is a very useful, I think, tool for collaborative teams, especially who are collecting data from external parties. And here already it gives you two options. So you can go for a blank document or a quick scheduling poll, which is a template that's available for you to use. And I've picked the scheduling one. So here it already gives me some content to work with, right? You can pick a color theme that will change what that background looks like. So it's really a preference type thing. The form settings allows you to moderate who accesses this. So if it's guest access, so also external people who are not logged in, don't have an account or not on the team. And also submission of how often did they submit it. If I click on this form settings, you can anonymize responses, get notifications, if guests are allowed, how many times the submission is available to people, and so on. You can also add more fields to the form. So let's say you can add the type as text, but you can also change it. So if you're collecting email addresses, I change this one. It's needs form below. This just gives people a text basically. I can add here email. If I change it to email, it will also make sure that people are inputting an email and not just some random thing. I can change the answer from optional to required if I want to. And it will also give them an example of an email, which is really helpful. And I can here edit. So these are all the options I'm giving people, and they can add also dates. And if I preview this, that's what it will look like. And the type of question will appear here. So that's the type of question. I can change this text here. Choose the best day for you. It gives me an option time. So what is it that we're doing? Like if it's the time option, which is the one selected, gives the date and the time, or if it's only the day, or if it's only some text options. So this is where I change that. Can also add more options. It will automatically default to 12, so I could change that. 25, I can change it here. Let's say it's 3. And here you can choose different types and so on. When you preview it, then you can see that it's expanded. You can also swap the axis, so it shows, you decide how it's going to be shown to people. And this, people will just basically tick against the options that are best for them. If you click twice, it goes to maybe. So one click goes to yes, and 2 clicks maybe. And all sorts of other things. There's checkboxes, checkbox grids, page breaks, other descriptions, ordered list. You can really customize this a lot. So this is the form. template, which is already coming with some date options. You can also start from a fresh document with nothing in it, and then you can craft your form there. The share options are the same as always. So this is then we can pick access rights. This is the participant link. And it's different links basically for what different things people can do. So the participant one is this one. Remember also the other way of getting to that is through properties. This is a little bit different because the form you want not only people to view the form, but also to complete it. So sharing it from the share view is better in this case because you can have a participant mode. Same access options here. I didn't set a destruction date, and I can enable list if I want to add more people onto people who have access to edit this document, and also the owner if I'm a part of a team who can edit this form. As a collaborative team working on a form, then you would share the author link and add them as an owner perhaps. And you will be able to see them on the user list if they're there, and you can use the chat option to chat about the work before it's released to the public. So I want to show you what that looks like for participants. And this is what it will look like for the user. So we'll prompt them to put in their name, this thing, the email, and I can pick options. I can anonymously, not really, because I've put in my name. But let's say it's anonymous because I am not using my login, my profile. And it gives me the option to edit my responses because that's the options that we have enabled in the form, right? So over there in the form settings. And we have one time and edit. So this is my one time and edit option. I cannot submit a new answer. I must edit the answer I have already submitted if I want to change it. Let's say I'm no longer available here. Maybe I'm available, but I don't know. I'm no longer available and I can update. Okay. So now that I have a response, the responses will show here. I can show individual responses, which is only just one. Or I can show the summary, which is really what I want, because if there's obviously multiple people coming to this, then I want to know how many of those people have responded or that everybody has responded. And I want to see, compare which time slot is the most popular to schedule my meeting. That's the form option, and it's very versatile. So you can go in and create the form that's best for you, basically. We've seen forms. Now with the whiteboard. Oops. I want to post this. So this is the whiteboard option. It's super handy if you're doing a workshop perhaps and you want to quickly show somebody something. You can insert an image. by uploading a new one or picking one that's already there that you have used before. And you can write a text and you can customize it how you want. You can also draw. You can clear it quickly, which is super good. If you were demonstrating some drawing or something, you want to show something pictorially, or you can also change the colors. People can also collaboratively draw on the whiteboard. So that's handy. And you can also control the opacity of like pictures, especially if you have like underlying pictures. So this is like the same color as the first one, but it's more opaque. You can change colors to demonstrate different things, like for example, water drainage and plants. So I'm just using random examples here, but you get the idea. And yes, the width of things, so fatter, thinner lines, whatever you need really. And so I think it's pretty handy if you're wanting to demonstrate something during a workshop or anything like this, but you can also use it to brainstorm with your team members. And you can move things around, so you can move the element or delete it, specific things, or move them around. So that's could make for an interesting experience for people. It also has a chat function, same as every other app that we have seen. And you can here insert images also. And export function in this case makes a PNG file, so it makes an image. And then you can use that image wherever. Really, it's up to you. The user view gives you an idea of who's in the document during that time. And you can also have templates, so you can import a template if you've done a drawing which has specific labels at the top, for example, so that people feel a bit more guided in what you're asking them to do. Then this is a good way of doing it. It has share options. Now it's not loading. Why not? View or edit, and same one, like you can share with contacts when you have those, and you can modulate the access by adding a password. So maybe once the event is finished and you don't want more edits on it, and you have shared the edit link, you can add a password to limit the edit option. If you have any questions about this or you don't know how that works, then you can always look at the documentation, which is linked here very helpfully on top. And you can change the name of the file if you want to, same as before. So that's the whiteboard. Then there are slides. The Markdown slides use Markdown. So if you don't know Markdown language, then you should have a look into this. It's quite simple. And let's see if I remember right. So you make a heading. That's a heading. And the more hashtags you add up there, the smaller it gets. There you go. So once you get the hang of the Markdown, which is pretty simple, it's your list, and it goes into present mode. If you want to, it just goes to present mode. It's really good. I think this is a really simple way of doing a presentation to people, which is not fussy, but you can also still have a theme. So with like text color, background color, and some other ones that they have here. It's more like for the backend stuff. You can, if you hover over it, it will just change that. You can insert an image, and there's obviously you can hide the toolbar like before. There's also a little toolbar at the top to help you. So if you don't know Markdown, and you can also just click on this different items so that you can quickly edit that. I think it's pretty good. It's really simple and effective way of doing a presentation. Obviously, if you add too much stuff there on the one sheet, that might be a bit too much. You can have a read on the documentation on how the Cryptpad Markdown slides work. But yes, you can see basically that you can really illustrate your point, just make presentations usually are not very verbose, so you'll need maybe to present your point, and you can move. You can insert links and so on. Pretty good. The export function on this one is an MD file because Markdown, it's a Markdown file. And you can take it to any other application that can take Markdown later. It's pretty good. The share access here has got view, present, and edit, or view once and destruct. So it's pretty good if you want to share it with a presenter. You just share the present, or if you want to give people edit rights, then you can do that with just the view option. And access same as before. You can add more owners and have a enabled access list, right? So that's pretty good. This is for creating a new document. That's not what we want to do. You can also have templates that might be useful to you. And in the properties, you can also share a read-only or an edit link. It's pretty helpful. And you can see the size of the file is pretty small with Markdown, which is really helpful. Obviously, if you add images and so on, it gets a bit larger. But in general, they're small file types. Again, super simple cooperative mode, so you can quickly do a little work together on brainstorming on what should be on here. It's very simple and straightforward. Okay. And the print option gives me a PDF version as well, so that's helpful. And in this case, I have it scaled, but you can do it fit to it. That makes a nice PDF mode. Okay. So the last one's a diagram. This is also pretty good for collaborative brainstorming when you have a problem which maybe your team wants to brainstorm around. I think it's really good for doing like flowchart and process thinking. And you can quite simply just click on the shapes and put them in and then connect them as you need to. Really good. And by going on the arrows there, I can simply create the next and so on and so forth. And there's a quick flowchart. There's also all the other options that you could imagine, miscellaneous items. There's some advanced items, but you can explore this for yourself. And if you double click on it, you'll be able to say, add text to this. And yeah, again, collaborative, easy to customize, not overly complicated. It has pages, so you can add extra pages if you need them, especially if you have maybe different iterations to this and you want to see progression. It still has an import function from Cryptpad. So if you've created another file and you want to import it here, you can export it as all these different options, like image options and PDF as well. And you can embed it as an image or an SVG or in a website. Pretty good. You can change the page setup from A4 portrait to landscape, if especially useful if you're doing a presentation. Landscape might be a little bit better for you. And you have a print function, so you can choose which pages to print and in what format. Then in the file view, you have the history, which may be useful if you've been working on this for some time and you want to see previous versions. Again, the tags, import from a template if you have a template, and the export functions are the draw.io is the base software for this. So that's the only export function from the file view. But as you have seen from the one within the app, it has a lot more export functions. So that's a different way of exporting the file. Pretty good, very simple. And yeah, it's got all sorts of things, extra plugin bits, different view options. Cool. Again, a chat function to help you and your team organize yourselves around this, and editing and view list of the users that are on it. And you can always change the name of the file. So that was all of that demo today. From the features, I think that's pretty much it. So now I will talk about the access. And if I go back, so from the Cryptpad website, if you go to the pricing, you will see, depending on the option that you have gone for, you have different access points. The first one is the public instance. If I look at public instances of this, I can find here a list, basically. And each one of this will take me to a different Cryptpad that is offered by different groups. For example, this is the Piratenpartei, which is a German political party. This is the Cryptpad private coffee hosted in Austria. So these are the kind of different options you have. Let's say I tried this root one. And this is what that instance looks like. It will tell you who's taking care about it and with more information about that project and so on. Remember that you're using hosting space on this project's team. So if you can support them, even though this is a free service, then please do so always, because hosting space is expensive. As you can see, it looks much the same like the version that I showed you before. It has the extra, this root documentation, because this is relevant to that project. And you can log in and sign up. So if I clicked on sign up, because I decided that this is the best home for my collaborative Cryptpad that I want to use, or my private Cryptpad. so my private documents, I can sign up using a username, password, and confirm password, and that will take me to the view which you have seen me go to before. I'm not going to register on this because I don't want to create ghost accounts. But if I show you on our one, and remember, this is only a demo version that will not be available for very long. We're just testing it out. You will see the logged in view like this, and it will basically take you to your drive and the Cryptpad and the option to see the different, create different documents. So that's the public instances one, which you would pick from this page on the Cryptpad website, cryptpad.org/instances. I will share this also in the description. That's one way of doing it. So if I go back to pricing, that's the first access point. The second one is to self-host it. So if you have your own server, then you can self-host it on the server. And for this, I recommend that you read the documentation well before starting with this. The next one is to use the cryptpad.fr, which is hosted by XWiki SAS. And for this, you would pick a plan that suits you and go with that, basically. To have your own instance, then you would have your own domain up here, which you just put on it, and it's highly customized and so on. You would do that. Once you have registered and signed in, it's pretty simple. And you just go straight to your Crypt drive. You can create folders. And here you can see basically on the left-hand side how your folders are and your files are organized and so on. So remember to keep an eye on that storage because obviously it's not infinite. I think I have covered all the bases for today. We have covered prices, all the different features and files that you can have here, and different ways of accessing the software. Okay, I think that's it for today, and we'll see you next week with another exciting software that we will explore.